Good day, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about the difference between an ART, which is Air Reserve Technician in the Air Force Reserve, and an AGR, which stands for Air Guard Reserve. And I'll also compare those to the active duty side as well. I have some questions here that somebody asked me, so I'm going to answer those questions. But let me give you a little bit of history first. ART is an Air Reserve Technician. I have several friends who are ARTs. So think of it like this, because I know it's going to be a little bit confusing, especially if you've never heard of it. During the week, Monday through Friday, this individual works on base, and he or she is in uniform. However, their status is they are a civilian, even though they are in uniform. So their pay is going to be GS in most cases that I know of. It could be GS 7, 9, 11, 12, 15. So they are civilians, but they're considered dual status, which means they also have a position in the Air Force Reserve. So they're both tied in together. You can't just do one or the other. Some history myself. I'm also a civilian that's away from my job because I'm an AGR right now. But those two are completely different. In other words, my civilian job had absolutely nothing to do with my reserve job. I was never an ART. The good thing about being an ART is that you have stability as far as your job. You can also move if you'd like. You can also get promoted on the military side and the civilian side as well. But it's going to be up to you as an individual. And ultimately, you're going to have two retirements, an Air Force Reserve retirement and a civil service retirement. So that's good. I have a good friend that I actually called him and picked his brain, asked some questions. The medical side is if you are an ART, you don't qualify for TRICARE Reserve. So that's not an option. You're going to have your civilian medical coverage. Another good thing about being an ART, and because you're dual status, is you still get 120 hours per year beginning every October to go do your military duty, and your civilian job is going to pay you for that. I'm currently an AGR, Air Guard Reserve, on a 3-year contract, and I'm at the 1.5-year mark. And lately I've been thinking, what do I want to do? Do I want to end my tour at the 3 years, or do I want to put in for an extension and try to continue? My civilian job is on hold for up to 5 years, but I'm going to confirm before I make a decision that it is up to 5 years as opposed to 3. Once they come back and say, yes, it's up to 5 years, then here's what happened yesterday. I was driving home and I got an email on my phone from the Air Force, and I'm going to share with you what the email was about. It says that in April of 2017, my records are going to meet a board. Or maybe not my records, but they're going to consider me for an extension, either 1 or 2 years, or I could say I want to end my AGR on schedule, on track. So I have to decide what it is that I want to do. And now I'm excited about this, but I'm leaning towards asking for a 2-year extension, as long as my civilian job is covered for up to 5 years. Because by then, this would take me to 4.5 years in the AGR program. If it ends, then I go back to my civilian job, and that's important to me. I'm not going to lose my civilian job if I don't have certainty that I can continue in the AGR program. So I have an email here that basically says, you are scheduled to meet the Spring 2018 Air Guard Reserve Review Board, scheduled for at the end of April. And I get to say what it is that I want to do. I talked to my wife last night, and she said a 2-year extension sounds great. We can take it from there. Now, because I'm away from my civilian job, I still get 120 hours every October for military duty, which is crazy because I'm getting paid through my active duty AGR job, and my civilian job will give me 120 hours per year, double pay. Now, some of the questions that Sarah has here are, she has many questions and is currently contemplating going full-time or Guard Reserve. There are rumors that you can still get retirement at 20 years as an AGR, and the answer to that is yes, you can. However, you have to get career status. And in the past, because there was some changes that just came down within the last month, if you had 6 years of AGR straight duty, then you would qualify for career status. What career status is that the Air Force Reserve is saying through the AGR program, we're going to take you up to your 20 years of active duty time, and then you qualify for a active duty retirement on the reserve side, which is the exact same thing, benefits as far as pay and medical. I'll give you an example. I have right now 12 and a half years of active duty time, even though combined active duty and reserve, I have 20 and a half years. So I could retire right now with a reserve retirement, but I won't get that till down the road, my pay. Obviously, when you retire active duty or AGR, you get your pension right away, which is a great benefit. So I have 12 and a half years. Let's just say in a year and a half, I end my AGR tour. I'll be right around 14 years. So obviously I don't qualify for that active duty retirement because I didn't do 20 years of active duty. So the answer to that is yes, but you have to have career status and then work all the way up to your 20 years. That is true. Also, her next question, how does pay look when comparing AGR to ART to active duty? Great question. AGR, which is what I am right now, we are considered active duty for the reserve. So everything is the same except as active duty. Let's say my counterpart is active duty, I'm AGR. Whatever he or she gets as pay, I get as well. Whatever medical benefits they get, I get as well. As an ART, that's different. And the reason is because you are dual status, but the majority of the time you are a civilian, even though you are in uniform. Remember, I talked about that. So the pay is completely different. It's like comparing my AGR pay right now to my civil service pay when I was civil service. Completely different. One of the benefits of being AGR or active duty is the pay is really good, and that's because your housing and your food allowance, both of those, are tax-free, and that is a big deal. So if you're an ART, you still qualify for tuition assistance because you're an ART. Remember, you're also a reservist. You qualify for tuition assistance of $4,500 a year. I talked to my friend, and what he said was that he's in a one deep slot. In other words, he is the only person in that office Monday through Friday, with the exception of reserve weekend, drill weekend, and it's tough for him to volunteer for a deployment because they'd have to backfill his position. So it's going to depend on your base, on your leadership, whether they approve of deployment for you or not. If you work in an area where there's a lot of people, let's say a team of 4 or 5, then it's a lot easier to have one person deploy because the other 4 people can backfill and assist with that job as well. Most of the ART jobs are stateside, to my knowledge. So you could move, but it's going to be in the States. I'm looking at my notes as well. Remember, because if you're an ART, you are technically a civilian. How you accrue leave hours or sick hours is going to be on the civilian side as well. Those are some of the things that I wanted to talk about. Her last question is it hard to get an officer pilot position as an AGR or ART? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to guess, and I don't like guesses, is that it'd be a lot easier to get an AGR pilot slot as opposed to an ART. Again, I'm not the expert, so that's what my gut feeling tells me, but I would say if you do some research, or maybe I can research that as well, and if I get an update on that, I will put it in the comments below. If I missed something, or if you want to share something about this, or if you have questions, put it in the comment section below. I reply to 90% of the questions that I get. The 10% that I don't are either silly questions or malicious questions, which don't happen often on my channel, but that's what I don't reply to. Hopefully this has been helpful. I want to make sure that I covered everything, and it looks like I did. Have a great day. One more thing that I have here, 2 more things, which I'm happy I looked at, is as an ART, Air Reserve Technician, you qualify for that 5% matching of Thrift Savings Plan if you are doing 5%, because that's on the civilian side. So when I was a civilian, minimum I would do that 5% TSP, because that's free money that the government was matching. The other thing is your annual tour. Remember I talked about your 120 hours per year, is you can do your annual tour as an ART at another base. That's what's recommended. And a few years ago, my friend who is an ART and myself and our team went to England, and we did our annual tour for 2 weeks in England, and we had a great time. So there are benefits to being an ART. There are many benefits to being an AGR in both cases, and there are benefits to being a straight traditional reservist, an IMA, or active duty. It really depends on what you want to do and what you do with what you have. Have a great day.